Hello and welcome back to our talking point. Now, you may be asking, what is a talking point if you haven't been here before? Well, it's a gathering place for future investors to get more information about the finer details of what you need to know to become a successful investor. Now, if you don't already know, the Wealth Masters Club is one of the largest investor networks globally with a following of over 1 million people. Now, we specialize in training ordinary South Africans in how they can start investing in property through specialized trusts, and in doing so, create generational wealth for future generations. Now, the biggest secret is that becoming a property investor is actually a lot easier than you may think, and it's a lot more attainable than many people might have thought before. But the challenge we face is that every generation starts their investment from zero after the passing of their parents, because they did not have the correct structures in place to protect their wealth. And then they had to build up everything over and over and over again, each generation. So that is why we are here. It's to help you and to shed light and to guide you. The best part is that we have a team of experts who will help you at every step of the way. Now, on the note of experts, it's always important to have the right people on your team who will find the right investment opportunities for you to create the best performing portfolio. And today we're actually joined by our property expert, Emile Grobbelaar, who is going to talk a little bit more on the point of the hidden costs when buying a property. So Emile, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Hello, Damien. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Emile, so obviously every week we write these articles and we share information with our subscribers. But why did you choose to write an article about property registration costs? Surely that's the attorney's job to explain that, or to show them what those costs might be.
Damien, yes, and also the money is going to them, so it would make sense for them to make sure to explain it to the client. But it is an extra cost over and above, what the purchase price of the property is. And the account seems to be quite confusing, because even if they tell you, your registration cost is going to be 20,000 Rand, by the time they get the account from the attorney, it's broken down into so many different things that the client doesn't understand it, can't figure it out. So we decided to write an article about that, just to prepare people, and obviously to share the information so that they can understand that side when they deal with the attorney a lot better.
Now, in terms of that actual registration process, what are the types of costs and things that form part of any property transaction?
I mean, the two big categories are the property registration cost and the bond registration cost. So those are also two different attorneys. The bond registration costs are being appointed by the bank, the one who granted your bond, and the property registration cost in South Africa, most of the time the seller chooses that attorney, but the purchaser pays the cost. So we always teach our clients that you choose the attorney because you pay the cost. And also, it's very important to choose the correct attorney, because not all of them specialize in conveyancing. Some of them specialize in litigation. Some people want to use their friend, but that is not his speciality, so he messes up the transaction actually. So when you do a transaction, choose your own conveyancing attorney, the transferring or registration attorney, also called that, and make sure that they specialize in conveyancing.
I think that's so important that also people take this into consideration when looking at their affordability, because a lot of people see the price of the property and they think, cool, this is within the affordability, without the thought of the further, transactional cost. And I think especially with bonds as well, if they get 100% bond, there must be the consideration that there are other costs involved. But then in terms of these different categories of charges within the total registration cost, where does all of that money go? Who actually benefits from the income generated from that?
Damien, if you buy at a high price, above R1 million, then there's transfer duty, which adds a big amount to the cost of registration of a property. So that is usually the biggest part, and then the attorney's fees themselves. But within those costs, all of that money goes to the attorney. So from there, some of it goes to obviously SARS, the South African Revenue Service, with regards to transfer duty. Some of it needs to be paid to the deeds office themselves, because they do work on that side. Some of it sometimes needs to be paid to the municipalities for the clearance certificates, etc. So the money gets split up by the attorney and going to different directions. Not all of it stays with the attorney, but their part, their fees are also paid to them and kept by them. And that also is the second biggest part of all the registration costs.
And then, Emile, a lot of people are obviously interested in new developments because there are certain benefits. Now, in terms of the registration fees for a new development in particular, does this also form part of the cost, or how does that get calculated?
Well, sometimes, or most of the times rather, a reservation fee is payable, but that doesn't form part of the registration cost if it is applicable. It also doesn't form part of the deposit if you're putting down a deposit in the transaction. That is usually for the purpose of initiation fees, which are not included when a bond is granted. Sometimes the bank charge that on top of your bond amount when your bond is registered, but sometimes not. So the attorney uses that reservation deposit to pay that initiation fee. And if nothing is used out of it, usually they pay it back to you in full. Yeah, deposit is just for the transaction itself. And with regards to new developments, yes, most of the time the property registration costs are included. So that's a big benefit, which means that in effect, the bank is financing that for the client as well if you get a bond. But sometimes the bond registration costs are not included. So yeah, just make sure of that when you do a transaction with a developer in a new development.
Fantastic. And then my last question, before someone buys a property, obviously knowing all of these costs will be a big factor. So how can a future investor or someone looking to buy a property, how can they find out what these costs would be beforehand?
Damien, yes, that is a very important thing to know beforehand, because as the purchase price of the property goes up, so does the property registration cost, the bond registration cost as well. So if the price is higher, the property registration cost is being calculated on the purchase price of the property. But let's say you put down a 20% deposit, then the bond amount is lower than the purchase price. So the bond registration cost is being calculated on the bond amount. So let's say the property price is R1 million. You can calculate the cost of that on R1 million. You put down 200,000 Rand as a deposit. So you calculate the bond registration cost on 800,000. And you need to know that beforehand, because you must pay that in cash. It cannot be financed. We don't get 110% bonds anymore. Like previously, they included all the costs. So you must pay that in cash always. Always ask your agent, if you do deal with an agent, they have that on hand. But the easiest and most convenient I find is to go onto the attorney's websites. Most of them that specialize in conveyancing have calculators on their websites. So maybe find one, put it as a shortcut on your phone or on your computer, and punch in the numbers, and it will kick it out to you immediately. So that's the easiest way to make sure you have enough cash available for the transaction that you want to do.
Great stuff. Emile, thank you so much for the time and a little bit of information you shared. Now, for you guys at home, Emile is part of an extensive team of experts who are part of the Wealth Masters Club, and he'll be one of the people who will help and guide you through the entire investment process. But of course, the most important part is that you need to educate yourself, and as always, we have the solution for that. So if you look in the description below, you will see 2 links for our online training taking place this weekend. One is in English and one is in Afrikaans. Now, Kurt Coetzee, the founder of the Wealth Masters Club, will take you through the whole wealth mastery system, which he's developed over the last 26 years. And the best part is that we are offering this training to you at absolutely no cost. So I can guarantee that this is the best 2 hours that you will spend this weekend. So make sure you register and you will learn a lot more. And then you can sit with people like Emile and he can help you start your investment portfolio. So Emile, thank you once again for your time, and we'll chat again very soon.
Wonderful. Only a pleasure, Damien. Keep well.
Bye-bye, everybody.